Hi, and welcome to the Valorous Podcast. Today, I am truly honored to be meeting with a new friend of mine out of Tampa, Florida. Aiden Silvers of Green Marketing is with us today, and Aiden's going to share with us a little bit about kind of his philosophy and how he started his business, some of the trials he's went through, and probably make us laugh a little bit along the way. So, Aiden, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. I am truly grateful. I know you've got a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking the time. How would you like to introduce yourself to the rest of the group here?
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure and honor to be here, Jonathan. I love a lot of the work you do, and you're someone that I can look up to and kind of mold myself to follow some of the awesome stuff that I observe you doing. Right?
Well, thank you. That's
Yeah,
very kind.
like Jonathan said, my name is Aiden. I am the founder and CEO of Green Marketing. We are a digital marketing agency and a niche of the landscaping realm, lawn care, trees, stuff like that. We are basically a all inclusive um, kind of service provider. We don't do a la carte. It's either all or nothing. So everything from websites, SEO, ads, social media, etc. We offer it in our programs. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. Within the niche for about 4 or 5. We are actually based out of all over Florida. I myself am in Sebring, Florida, kind of central. I think you might have got Tampa from one of our fellow associates, Tony Ricketts, who is also in the green industry, who's an amazing business owner and just fantastic at what he does, and also a role model to me as well. But yeah, that's a bit about me and my professional kind of journey, and I'm into a lot of things like mindset and spirituality and just personal development, kind of persevering through adversity and the challenges that life throws at you, right? And
Absolutely.
Sir Jonathan will we can dive into a lot more of that here shortly.
We will. Well, thanks for clarifying that, and I really appreciate you going through that introduction, Aiden. So I know a lot of the viewers are going to be curious right away. So I'm going to jump right in. You obviously, and one of the things that's impressed me so about you, Aiden, is your perseverance and the fact that you're a no excuses guy. You don't make any excuses. Not everybody that I get to interview is laying in a bed and dealing with that. Can you share a little bit about the physical conditions that you're suffering from, and just to help people understand, okay, what's up with Aiden? Obviously, you and I have talked before when you're in your wheelchair and things like
Yep.
that. But I also know that a lot of times you're operating like you are now from bed because of some of the physical limitations you've got. Can you share a little bit about those and help us understand maybe why you've never used that as an excuse? Because it'd be so easy to go, oh, I can't do anything. And you've done just the opposite, Aiden.
Yeah, 100%. It's really funny because as someone who lives as Aiden every day, like disability is just part of my world. Like my physical um,
Sure.
stature is like just normal, and so I'll have calls with people who don't know who I am. Like they haven't followed me on Facebook. Most of our audience who are interested in working together know the business through me on Facebook or social media. But sometimes we'll get like a Google lead, right? Who finds us on Google and they'll schedule a call with me, and like I'll forget they don't know anything about me and my disability and my journey, right? And I'll like have my camera on and stuff, and they'll just kind of be like in shock and they'll like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, I forgot, right? I forgot to kind of give you the preface of Aiden and who I am." But yeah, like Jonathan said, I do operate here from my bed. I have a physical disability called spinal muscular atrophy, SMA for short. It's a neuromuscular disease. You're born with it. Both of your parents have to carry the gene. Mine did. And then out of every 4 children, one of them will have SMA. SMA is a broad uh, spectrum. Most infants who get it have it really bad and pass away within shortly after birth because they don't have muscle to breathe or organ function. And then there's individuals like me who are somewhere in the middle of that. I have complete organ function, verbal ability. Um, I can eat my food, right? I like chew my food. And then you have people that can walk and live a normal-ish life, but maybe fatigue really quickly. And as time goes on, it gets a little worse for them, right? So there's like three different types. I'm somewhere in the middle. I've been in the state that I'm in now for about, let's see, I'm like 28 now, I guess.
Hmm.
Like 15, 14, 15 years.
Okay.
But yeah, I used to be able to like feed myself and play Xbox and all this stuff. And as time goes on, deteriorates. So I've been in this state for a while. Um, I do operate from my bed just because it's what's efficient and comfortable for me, and I can actually only sit in my wheelchair for about an hour before I start getting uncomfortable. Right, so this is my office right now, and I hustle it up 8, 12, 16 hours a day. And sorry for the long rant. I know you asked a question of how I guess what was really the question again? Like what I
Well, no, you've done an amazing job answering that. One of the things, Aiden, that impressed me immediately when we first met was just the fact that you work incredibly hard and you're incredibly focused. And in the entire time I've known you, you've never once used your physical limitations as an excuse to not do anything, whether it was serving a client, participating in an event, or anything like that. And candidly, it's just super impressive in today's society when so many people have excuses for everything that you never have one. And I'm just totally impressed with you. Um, Tell me, if you will, and tell everybody else a little bit, if you would, how do you keep yourself motivated, Aiden, when, we all have bad days and things like that? And obviously such a blessing that you've been able to do the things you have, but tell me just a little bit about how do you keep yourself motivated?
yeah, it's a great question and a broad question, and that's something that everybody probably has trouble answering, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, but I think that um, my destiny that I will fulfill later in life, 5 to plus years from now, maybe sooner, is kind of redefining the definition of adversity and what it means in life. So
Mm,
I truly feel like adversity is the way to um, really become the person you're supposed to become. Because if things are too good, then you succumb to your wants and your desires and this Lamborghini or this money or whatever, right? You're never able to really sculpt your inner self, your core being, and therefore you're never really happy because you don't know what you want. You just think you know what you want based on what the world and society tells you. And so
mm,
through adversity, it challenges you to overcome and gives you an option to either fall into victimhood, or become a warrior and persevere and win. And I think that's kind of the purpose of life is you're just constantly tested. It's just one big test after the next, and it's up to you if you're gonna succumb to that or overcome it, right? And
absolutely.
as someone with a disability, what I consider to be a severe physical disability, I've faced a lot of adversity in life, early at an early age. Um, However, I would say honestly that it's maybe 20% of the adversity that I've faced, with 80% being some pretty impactful things like uh, probably the lowest level of parenting possible.
Mm,
No education whatsoever. I was taken to school in the fourth grade. No social life. No opportunity for career. Nothing. Just kind of sheltered, if you will, right? And so that's been a big thing for me. So I faced a lot, and I think it accelerated my growth as a person and as Aiden. And I think 28-year-old Aiden is equal to 50-year-old Bob in some ways, right? Because I've
Oh, absolutely.
lived through a lot of different things and experienced a lot of different things. And I also think that there's a lot of pros versus cons to me having the life I've lived, because I didn't have a lot of options to go play football or be the high school, sweetheart or whatever. Like, I didn't have a bunch of distractions. So, no drugs, no partying, no alcohol. It's just, what are you going to do with your life? And what options do you have? And my options were really just digital world. So
Sure.
it's like, are you going to do this or not? And when I was 18, I decided to do it. And here we are.
Well, and Aiden, you've done just an amazing job in the last 10 years of building a successful agency that I know your focus is on serving your customers and doing a great job of that. And, I've seen some of your work as well and have been totally impressed with that as well. Let me ask you kind of a business related question. A lot of our audience here are other business owners and people like that. And one of the things I love to ask is, what things have you learned over the last 10 years in building your business that if you could speak to yourself back at 18 or 19 again as you were just getting started, what's one piece of advice that you might give your 18 or 19-year-old self today?
I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give is to not be so close minded on listening to authorities in the industry and other individuals who do what you do. And so, me and you are part of Seven Figure Agency, a mastermind for agency owners. I joined in end of Aprilish, and
Mm-hmm.
it just has been so abundant for me ever since then. From the perspective of like, okay, here's these hundreds of other guys and gals, and they're all doing it, and they're all having
Yeah.
success at it, right? And if they can do it, like, why can't I do it? And it also gives you hope, because when you're solo dolo, lone wolf, you have all these ideas and strategies, and right, like you think you know what you want, but you're not really sure, and it's like imposter syndrome. Is this going to work? How do I
Mm-hmm.
know? Maybe I'm wasting all this time. And the fact is, I have been doing this for 10 years, and the first 7, I've made no more than 30, 40,000 a year gross, like not profit, like gross. I didn't make any profit, right? And that's bad. That's pretty bad. However, today we're at basically 48,000 a month now, recurring
That's
revenue.
amazing. Wow.
So 7, 8, 9 years to become an overnight success, basically, right?
Always.
Uh,
That's the way it works. Yeah.
so, but myself in the past was very close minded, and like, I don't want to listen to others because I want to experience it for myself, learn it for myself, and then implement. And I still am that way, kind of. But unfortunately, I think that my upbringing and my quote unquote role models that I had available to me played a role in that, because it wasn't like I was getting advised by agency owners, right?
Sure.
It was people that I didn't feel knew what they were speaking of, and that closed my mind off to the entire concept of coaching and peers and all these different things that a mastermind group would offer, right? And it
Oh,
really does
absolutely.
elevate you. It elevates you to another level.
Well, that's great advice, and I couldn't agree with you more on the seven figure agency. As you mentioned, that's where we met through that mastermind group, and we joined last November and have just been absolutely amazed at the value that comes from surrounding yourself with other abundance minded experts. Everybody in that group is willing to share, and you don't I mean, I've literally, in the almost year we've been involved, I've not met a single taker. Every single person wants to share and is there to help. Even direct competitors, which is an amazing thing in today's society. I think that's just great advice that you would give yourself then, and I think something that's so applicable today, that so often we tend to close our minds and not think about things. And there's opportunities if we look, even though it took me 11 years to find it, it took you almost 10. If we look, there are those opportunities for us as business owners to surround ourselves with excellence. And what an incredible difference it's made for your business as you share, and what an incredible difference it's made for ours, on the same magnitude. And it's amazing, absolutely amazing. So
I think
that's really exciting. And kudos on your growth, by the way. That's amazing growth over a very short period of time.
oh, I really appreciate it. It is surreal. We have ambitions that are just like people would think it's silly, right?
That's
Um,
that's the fun of it.
but you know what's interesting is like in this mastermind group, there's certain people that I consider to be like just the top dog of agency owners in
Yeah.
general. And they're like, "Oh, Aiden, you're like a badass. Like, look at you. You're amazing, right?" And I'm like, "What? Like, I'm nothing." Like, I look at people like you, Jonathan, and I'm like, "You're the badass, right? Like, who am I?" But we all look at each other and we
Hmm.
just see the potential in each other, and it's just like, "Oh man, I want to be a part of their journey. Like, I want to see them succeed." And I've been helped by many people who I'm sure their hourly rate is thousands of dollars an hour, right? And they'll
Oh
just
yeah,
call me
absolutely.
2 3 hours and be like, "Hey man, like here's what we did, blah blah blah. What are you doing for this and that?" And that stuff is just priceless. Not only are you learning directly from someone that is super involved in success within your your business category, but it's just the perspective of like seeing someone else do it that motivates me and makes me accountable. Jonathan, like they made that post for you a week or two ago, and it's like that you broke annual revenue records.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like, all right, Jonathan, I see you. Like I'm gonna be the next one up there, right? So it's
Well,
fun.
that's what's so cool about it. And you're absolutely right. It's just, and let me tell you, I can tell you why everybody thinks you're a badass, because if I were in your shoes, Aiden, I don't know I'd be where I am today. I don't know I would have been able to keep that positive mental outlook and to have stuck with it. The world, like we said, is full of excuses, and while I don't think any of us have dwelled on those, you're impressive because you are, first of all, you're incredibly mature for 28, and on the conversations that we've had, and the business acumen that you've grown and have, you're very mature for your age, and you've got a disability that many people would just allow them to push them aside essentially and go, well, I'll exist, I'll play Xbox and try to make my day as pleasant as possible. And you've just done the opposite. I mean, you've excelled, you've buckled down, and I can say, as somebody that's talked to you through the group, you've always got an attitude of wanting to learn. And I think that's so amazing, because there's no one in that group that acts like they have all the answers. And you and I both know people in that group that we both look up to tremendously, that have done far better than I've ever dreamed of. And even they don't act like they've got all the answers. They're very humble. They're very abundance minded. And man, what an incredible difference that makes in life. So, uh,
Absolutely.
really,
And I will say that I think a big part of my early teens, young adulthood, even all the way up until today, a huge role model and figure for me to look up to is Gary Vaynerchuk and
oh
a lot
yeah,
of the content that he produces, and wildly successful agency owner, entrepreneur, like huge, right? But he's one of the most humble humanity type of individual that I've ever met, and I've had the blessing of talking with him a few times and doing some podcasts with him, and we actually have one scheduled in January. And he's played like a really big role in my life to shape my mental structure.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is all about emotional intelligence. I feel like things like gratitude and empathy and patience and right conviction and curiosity, right? Like all these things are very difficult to grasp and to understand. But I think when you start learning them and you go through life and experience things, it's like, oh, that's what that means, right? Like that's what that means. I want more of that. So I'm going to put it in this little box in my head and try to find more things in that category, right? Um,
Absolutely.
and that's really helped me develop a lot as a person. I truly think that your business is a direct result of who you are
Mm-hmm.
and the results that you create, right? Especially as an agency owner. I mean, it's probably one of, if not the most difficult business types to run. Like it's hard enough to grow your business. We're growing businesses for other businesses, right? And
Absolutely.
it's chaos, and so especially with the direct correlation of like yourself as a CEO and visionary, it really aligns with the direct impact that it has in your business.
So true, so true. Yeah, and just another area of kudos, and again, why Aiden? We so many of us think you're a badass. Let me ask the audience here. I know you can't answer, but how many of you would one have the guts and two have the wherewithal to make a phone call and get a hold of Gary Vaynerchuk and get him booked to be on your podcast? Uh, Aiden's done that, and it's amazing. And can't wait to see that episode. I know you were telling me about that communication with Gary and his team and how that went. And I know you're booked. You said January, right? I believe for that podcast. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
January, correct.
That's so cool. I mean, talk about
Fun.
a rock star to be able to get and to chat. You'll just do an amazing job. I cannot wait to see that episode when it comes out.
Yeah,
So
I think it really is just a it's all about positioning yourself for opportunities, right?
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I've worked my way into a position to get that podcast with Gary over years and years, right? I understand him so well as an individual through consuming his content for years that I know how to pull his heartstrings, right? I
Hmm.
know what to talk about with him and to connect and to resonate. And um, I mean, we have very similar beliefs, and so all that to come to a point to where I see him in a live chat like Discord. I don't know if you're familiar with what that
Absolutely.
is, right? And he was just in there chatting and like, hey Gary, like do a podcast with me. And he's like, next year I'm available, get it booked. So I hit up his team and we got it booked, right? So a
Well,
little
no,
bit of
but
luck.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Aiden.
I just want to say it's a little bit of luck, right?
Well, nothing wrong with a little bit of luck, though. But what inspired me about that is the way you went about it. So you, like me, I'm sure, get dozens, if not hundreds, of emails a day from people that are hitting us up about the latest and greatest way to generate leads, to build their business, to do whatever the case may be. I mean, I get so sick of them. But you did things by building a relationship, and you took the time to invest. And you were telling me how you've been involved in some of Gary's various operations over the last number of years, getting to a point that he knew who you were so that you could begin to have that conversation. You didn't begin, I always compare it to a dating relationship. You didn't begin by bumping into him and then go, hey, let's get married.
Right,
You had an opportunity to build that relationship and show him that you weren't there to just be a taker, but you were there to add value to what he was doing, that you guys shared interests and you shared some passions. And as a result of that, when that opportunity presented itself for the podcast, you were in a great position to do so because he already knew who Aiden Silvers was. He was familiar with what value you brought to the table, and you weren't one of those people that just popped up in front of him he'd never met before that wanted to take from Gary. And I think the way you built that relationship, And the way you've done that with so many of us in Seven Figure Agency has been so impressive, because you've always been focused on value. Even as we were prepping in the green room for this, your statement to me was, "Hey, Jonathan, I just want to provide value to your listeners." And I think as entrepreneurs and as business owners, there's so much for us to learn, that if we focus on providing that value, that the opportunities come through. It's whether we want to call it business karma or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But it is truly what comes around goes around. And when you're abundance minded and you're focusing on value, those opportunities come back to you in spades. So yeah, just kudos on that, and thanks for sharing that story of how you did that. That's just amazing. So,
No
um,
worries.
one more question, and I told you I wouldn't hold you much longer. I'm bumping up on our time limits, Aiden, but if I could, one question: if you at 28 were told, "Hey, Aiden, you got to start over. You've got $1,000 to your name. What would you do in the first 30 to 60 days to jumpstart?" And I'm assuming, maybe I shouldn't assume, I'd assume you'd restart your business, but what would you do in the first 30 to 60 days to jumpstart your success if you were going to start all over?
That's a tough one. Yeah, I think there's a
I
lot
should
of
have prepped you
variables.
better.
Well, I think you tried to, and I maybe didn't prep as good as I should have. But there's a lot of variables in that, and I think I would continue doing what I do today, which is
Mm,
build brand and
so
produce
powerful.
content, right? And it's so on topic with what you were just discussing. As businesses, I think we get too consumed with the idea of like business, corporate, by the book type of realm that we forget that we're humans. Everyone in our organization is human. Everyone in our audience is human. And humans build relationships. We want to be social. We want to connect. We want to know more about each other. If we have trust, that's a huge plus. If we're able to see that you're an authority, that's a huge plus. So I would just continue doing what I'm doing, which is building a massive brand of someone that wants to give to the industry, someone that has solutions for the industry, and that I'll call you on the phone and tell you step by step what you need to do, like what you need to do to achieve it. You don't need to hire me to do it, right? And that just comes back tenfold in a lot of different ways, whether you want to call that karma, like Jonathan said. And just being a real person. I have superb relationships with 90% of our clients, and we have about 40 clients, and we have people that will call me at 2, 3 in the morning and talk
Mhm.
about a relationship issue or something, right? Like we worked together for years and years, and it's my job to make them successful and help guide them through business. And business is part of life, right? But I think people try
Absolutely.
to separate it way too much.
No, absolutely. I was just listening to a podcast last week, and one of the things that I thought was so interesting is they were actually interviewing a gentleman who's now taken three businesses to multiple eight figures and had exits, successful exits, which is, of course, just amazing. But
Huge.
one of the things he said he learned very early on, and he started as an electrician. And one of the things he learned early on is that all well, let me take a step back. He was asked at a seminar, what's your line of work? And he thought, well, I'm an electrician. I put in wires, I make power flow, that type of stuff. And he was challenged, and he says, no, you're in the marketing business. I don't care what you do. Your business is your job is to market your business, to market your service, to help convince the clients who you can make the ones that you can make their lives better, to help them understand that you can make their lives better. You can add value to what they're doing, and you can help them achieve their goals and dreams as well. And I thought that was so profound to hear from someone who considered himself an electrician at the time, to have that revelation that even as an electrical contractor and an electrician, his job really was marketing and focused on that. And I think that really fits in with what you were just saying as well.
To add
So,
on that, Gary Vee said something similar to where you're not, an electrician or a roofer, you're a media company.
Oh, so
And
true.
you need to produce content at scale that's relevant and contextual to your audience on the platforms that they're on.
Yep.
It's straightforward when you say it like that, right? But people can't accept that as the answer. Unfortunately,
No,
they
it's so
think it's
true.
some magic pill that you take and you wake up and you're rich, right? No, no,
Yeah.
you can't do
I
that.
wish. Yeah. I wish. One more question for you, because I know you know Gary and you follow him and collaborate with him on some things. Yesterday, I was watching one of his newest videos. I think he released it on Friday, but I'd have to double check that. And he was talking about how he believes, and of course, Gary's always looking ahead, trying to find that next thing. He was on TikTok before any of us were, and he was talking about doing videos on Facebook before any of us were, and all that. Gary believes, according to this new video, that LinkedIn is where Facebook was 5 years ago. And that as business owners and entrepreneurs, we really need to be focusing not only on the other channels, but focus on building a brand and building an audience on LinkedIn, because he believes that for the next year or so, the algorithm is going to greatly reward those that are working to do it on that platform. Just curious your thoughts on that. I admit I had not really thought about LinkedIn in that capacity, but I know Gary's a lot more involved in that and pays a lot closer to attention to some of what's happening behind the scenes. What's your take on that perspective from Gary?
Yeah, I've also heard this from Gary. I, listen to a lot of his content, so I know all of his
Sure.
ideas of what's working and what's not. He's been talking about LinkedIn for a long time, and I believe he said, it's kind of on the way out soon. Now, when that happens, it could be a year, it could be two, whatever. But it certainly right now, the organic reach capabilities on LinkedIn are just massive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what that means is just content that you create. You don't need to run ads against it. You don't need to do anything special. Just organic content and connecting with the right people. However, something extremely underrated. I don't know if it will ever be properly rated because of the stigma. Is TikTok.
Hmm.
A lot of people, oh, it's a dancing app and young kids, whatever, right? TikTok's algorithm is, if I'm not mistaken, it's like very unique and very innovative to where
Absolutely.
it shows you content based on what you want to see, right? Your
Yeah,
interest.
not based on who you are, but on what you want to see. And I think that's just so amazing.
It really is. So if you are, let's just use someone into faith, right? Really into faith.
Yep.
You're gonna scroll TikTok, and when a faith video appears, you're gonna watch the whole thing. You might like it, you might comment, you might share, you might watch it again. TikTok is gonna pick up on that instantly. It's gonna show you more of that. Pretty soon, your whole feed is gonna be faith based. If
Exactly.
you are into satisfactory videos, pressure washing is a very satisfactory thing to watch. So if you're a pressure washing company and you're not running TikTok, you are not hitting all those housewives that scroll TikTok and look at satisfactory videos, and it's huge. Like you're missing a gold mine. I'm a
Oh,
hypocrite because I don't use it.
no, I agree with you, and I admit I was late to that particular party. I'm on it now and I'm working on it. But one of the things that is kind of one of those duh moments in my mind is when you realize that historically most people, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, they've been showing us content largely based on the people that we follow, versus upon our interests. And TikTok tweaked that and really made just a massive change to focus less on the people that we follow and more on the type of content that we're engaging with. And while that definitely relates to the people that we follow, we know that different people have different types of content. And, I like some of what Gary puts out. I don't like everything that Gary puts out. I like some of what Patrick Bet David puts out. I don't like everything that he puts out.
Of course,
But TikTok was smart enough to say, wow, there's a correlation between the stuff that Jonathan likes that Gary does, the stuff that Patrick McDavid puts out that he likes, the stuff out that a host of others, and of course now I can't think of anybody because I'm on the spot, which is always dangerous. But Alex Hermosi and the whole team. it's not just that I follow those individuals, it's which bits of their content do I engage with? And then they show me more content like the content that I've engaged with, regardless of who created it. And I just think that's such a huge paradigm shift in allowing that artificial intelligence to deliver to us. And it's really the trend, I think, of where everything's going to be going over the next few years.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you know what else it's doing? I know we're kind of out of time here soon, but I'm having so much fun chatting with you, so forgive me.
I'm good if you are, so we're good.
I think it's making content creators really up their game, because if you're
You
not
bet.
capturing the consumer, I would say 3 seconds, but I feel like that might even be too long. Under
I
three
think it is.
seconds, they're sliding, they're scrolling by, right? So you have to really be creative and come up with ideas to capture their attention. And what that does is, what I love, it makes the ones who put in the work reap the rewards, right? Like, you're not just gonna
Mm,
get on TikTok, throw some videos up that are poor quality, no thought put into it, right? It might do okay, but you're not gonna be viral. If you do put thought into it, and the time and the work and the energy and the resources, you got a really good chance that it's gonna do well, right? Regardless of who your audience is. If you're a Rubik's Cube fanatic, like, it's ridiculous, right? Because it's interest based again. Um, Also, one of my thoughts is that in the future, maybe 10 plus years from now, like, blockchain is just going to be everything. It's going to
oh,
really
absolutely.
be the new internet. And so everyone out there who is struggling with marketing today, with Web 2.0, with social media, Google, TikTok, you guys are just going to be blown in the dust when Web3 comes around, with the blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, smart contracts. You gotta catch up, because we're getting to a point soon. I mean, virtual reality, right, Jonathan? Like,
You
there's
bet.
so much around the corner that isn't here yet, but I would bet my life it's coming, and it's going to make things very convenient for people, and legitimate and private and authentic. It's just going to be solutions all around. And for those of you that are like, oh, it's hoopla, right? Like Bitcoin, ha ha ha. Like, okay, you can laugh now, but just like you had a pager and you said, I'll never get a flip phone, and now you have an iPhone 12, right?
Oh, so true. Great analogy.
It's a Gary Vee analogy, so.
Yeah, no, I recognize it, but I agree with it, and I think it makes so much sense. So, well, Aiden, I notice it looks like you've got a Guinness Book of World Record book that you're holding there. Am I reading that right upside down?
It is, and it's just purely a random book that works for me.
Oh, okay. Well, we can edit that part out, but I thought that is so cool. He's got a Guinness Book of World Records. I wonder if there's something about that. So that's really cool.
There's not. I make use of my surroundings, my friend. So
That's
it's funny
awesome.
because I had like a photo from like 6 years ago, and it was the same book, and it's all like tattered and ripped up, and I got it like duct taped and fit for my needs, right? And it's like,
You bet.
I I'm sure I could spend some money and get something that looks cooler, but like, why, right? And
It
then that's a
works.
huge thing we could talk about for hours too. Is too many people buy stuff for other people, not for them, right? And they want
Mm,
to have like, oh, I have this uh fancy car, right? And that's what people are gonna know me for, and they're gonna think I'm better because of that. And it's like, why do you really care what they think of you? Because they don't control anything in your life, right? And
absolutely.
setting yourself up for failure all around, and disappointment, and reliance on others, and it's just bad. So I don't know how this crappy book segued into that, but I think it's just my mindset of using what's at your disposal and trying to not care about, right? Like, what other people. I mean, if I cared, I wouldn't be here in my bed, right?
Well, but you are such a motivation to others because you don't allow yourself to worry about that, and that's huge. And I think we all can do that, and we can learn from that, Aiden. I think it's just great advice and great counsel, and candidly amazing wisdom. I'm an old timer here at 53 compared to you at 28, but my friend, you're full of wisdom, and I just want to thank you so much for the time you've given us today. I know you like me are trying to run a very busy business, and I'm grateful for you taking the time out of your day, and just so looking forward to continuing to get to know you better as we collaborate on different projects, and hopefully in March when we have that intensive in Miami, hopefully I'll be able to meet you in person.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure, friend, and we're both just getting started. I mean, we have so much potential and things that we're going to do in life, right? And one thing I am going to have to ask you is teach me how to grow an awesome beard like that, so people think that I'm actually an adult and not some kid, right?
Oh, I got to tell you, that's a God thing. I've always been able to grow facial hair. We'll keep the camera pointed the way it is because it's getting really thin up top. Uh, but yeah, no, we're
You just
that's that,
reshifted the focus of where it's going to grow.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
You manifested it, right?
I wish it would keep growing. It's kind of stopped in length though, and it's a little funky at the moment because I was just outside. We were testing some things out in a new mic out in the wind, and I wasn't
Oh,
thinking I was going to be back on camera today. I'm like, oh, I got to go back in and do the podcast. But yeah, I definitely I
beautiful.
enjoy it. It's something that's unique, and as my wife reminds me, there aren't many 6'3", 400-pound guys walking around with big white beards, and it tends to get me a little bit of attention, which I suppose isn't normally a bad thing.
Right. You're going to get attention regardless, so just do what you want, right?
Yeah. But like you said, it's some people love it, some people hate it, and I just don't care. I like it. My wife likes it. As a result, it's all good. So
100%, brother.
awesome, Aiden. Thank you again so much. You're a blessing to know. I'm so thankful for you, and I just wish you all the best, continued success and growth. And we will definitely be continue to be in touch. Thank you, Aiden.
Pleasure. See you
All
later,
right, have a
friend.
great one.
You too.